right, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Yes. What? All right. Nancy Davis, we were having a laugh last night about you inadvertently calling me an Adonis, and that was fun.
That was a laugh.
That was a laugh, wasn't it, Jim? All right, just Sister Lee is dying for a recap, so we're going to have to recap again. So the last time we left off where Eli and his sons, particularly his sons, were completely unrighteous. We're taking advantage of the tabernacle and the sacrifices associated with that, taking the best, really robbing from the people and also robbing from God. Very difficult situation to the point where, what does Scripture say about the people's attitude with Hophni and Phinehas and Eli? What does it say? You remember?
Vile.
Yeah, I forget the exact wording of it, but yeah, they didn't want to bring sacrifices anymore. It was abhorrent to them because of what they were doing. Continued tension between the Philistines who lived on the coastline and the Israelites who lived inland, mostly in the hill country. Philistines were very strong, were able to make weapons, iron weapons, and they dominated the Israelites for a long period of time, beginning with what judge? Anyone remember? Philistines are introduced to us in Judges, by the way. And who was the first judge that really began this process of breaking away from the Philistines? Samson, right? Okay. So Samson is going to be the first judge. And there's going to be continued warfare between the Philistines and the Israelites, really up until the time of David. David is going to, for all intents and purposes, is going to stop the Philistines from dominating the children of Israel. Anyways, let's turn quickly to the 4th chapter of 1 Samuel. We're told in verse 1 that the Philistines came to fight Israel. All Israel went out to battle to the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. So we're going to have this pretty decent sized battle. Verse 2, the Philistines put themselves in array, and the battle was joined. Israel was smitten against the Philistines. Okay, so another major loss, another battle. And this, this makes sense given the fact that the Philistines were more technologically advanced than the Israelites were, particularly in the field of battle. It says that 4,000 men died. And so what do the children of Israel do in order to counteract these continued losses to the Philistines? What do they decide to do? What's that? Okay, thank you. Yes, bring the ark, right? It says, so the people, verse 4, sent to Shiloh that they might bring forth the ark. So the ark is going to go out. And so we talked a little bit about this last week as well, about the desperation of this chapter and the desperation of the Israelites that they had tried everything, really, and they had just lost a major battle, and they said, look, we've got to do something dramatic, and that was to bring the ark out with them to battle. They figured, hey, the ark, God is going to be with, the sacred ark, and he's going to lead us to battle, and we're going to be victorious over the Philistines. The chapter tells us that that is not the case, right? In fact, there is another slaughter of the Israelites. The Philistines are victorious again, and the ark is captured. The news is brought to Eli, who was 98 years old at the time, heavy-set fellow. And when he hears this, he's going to topple over and he's going to die, right? Hophni and Phinehas, his two sons, what happened to them?
Killed in the battle.
Yeah, they're going to be killed in the battle, so they're going to be killed in the battle. The chief, the high priest is going to die. His sons are going to die. So I just want, I think during this time as well, not only did the priests kind of control the religious aspects of the tabernacle and of the sacrifices and the rituals and the routines of the law of Moses, but they also led the people out to battle as well. So there was a warrior aspect of this as well. And so Hophni and Phinehas are going to be military leaders as well, lead them out into battle. They have the ark. You know, this is looking good for Israel. You know, it's going to be an absolute disaster, right? Ark is going to be captured. Hophni and Phinehas are going to be killed. And in fact, Phinehas's wife is going to give birth to, in verse 21, to a child named Ichabod, one of the great Bible names, right? And Ichabod means the glory is departed from Israel, right? So I think that's the chapter ends with that the glory, God's presence amongst the Israelites is departed. The ark is gone. Their high priest is gone. The two sons, their military leaders, are gone. There's destruction, right? This was really, the Israelites were at a very low time right now. The glory of Israel is gone, right? They are completely dominated now by the Philistines, okay? Any questions so far? That was a solid recap, I think. Thank you. All right. Just a quick picture right here of the ark, right? Ark of the Covenant, of the two cherubims on top, right? So we are introduced now in Samuel to the Philistines' religious beliefs, right? They have a god, and his name is Dagon, right? Okay. So, little background on Dagon. Kind of one of these things we're not sure where, the ideas of Dagon came from. There are Babylonian inscriptions that make reference to a god named Dagon up in Syria as well. They've found some temples to a god named Dagon, and it seems that the Philistines took on a lot of these belief systems, the belief of Dagon. Now, Dagon was a half man, half fish. He was the fertility god. And so he was also the god of grain, war, and he was the protector of the Philistines. He had a wife named Nashti. Now, this makes sense, right? So the two big things, obviously, that kept the Philistines alive as far as staple crops were certainly all of the grain, the barley that they had, the wheat, any of those things. And then being on the coastline as well, they would also get a lot of their food from the ocean, right? And so it makes sense for their main god to be half fish and half man, all right? Yes, Deb?
Yeah, that I was thinking about that half man, half fish thing. That means this god dominates land and sea. He would be fertility of land and fertility of the sea.
That's a great point, Deb. Yeah. So Dagon really controls every aspect of Philistine society, right? And so this is, what do they do with the ark when they bring it, right? They capture it. What do they do to it?
Bring it. Put it in his temple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's actually a gift. They're giving this gift to Dagon. Remember, it was gold plated, number one, so it was valuable. But also, this was the symbol of Yahweh. And so Yahweh is being brought to Dagon, to pay homage, I guess, to Dagon. That the Hebrew God is subservient to the Philistines' god, the god Dagon. This half man, half fish thing too. This is, some people say too that this is where we get the idea of mermaids or mermen, right? We still have that in ancient Greek mythology as well. So just something to think about. I've got a couple pictures here of what of Dagon looked like. You have a pass? You don't have a pass.
Can I have a recap?
Yes, let's recap for everybody. Here is a picture right here of Dagon. You can see he's kind of got some scales on the back, like a fish body. Yeah, very, very traditional. He's got a fish hat, I guess, that comes down. And then here is a picture right here, an artist's rendition of Dagon falling in front of the Ark of the Covenant, right? Now, there's a couple things that happen with this. This is actually a pretty interesting chapter, right? Let's take a look at 1 Samuel 5, okay? So, fourth chapter of 1 Samuel ends, the glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. I think I'm all right, Jim. I think I'm all right, but thank you. I usually have a couple in my bag, and I don't. Verse 1, and the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it unto Ebenezer, unto Ashdod. So one of the main cities of the Philistines was Ashdod. The ark is being brought there. And when the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon, right? Makes sense. Here is your gift. Thank you for the victory, Dagon. You are the best. You're the number one God in the world. We love you. Thank you. Here is the Ark of the Covenant, where the power of the Israelites, the power of Yahweh resides. We got it. Congratulations. You're the best. Verse 3, and when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of God. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. So that's interesting, right? Night, they wake up, the priests come in to kind of do the rituals, right, in the temple, and poof, Dagon's fallen down before him, right? Like, okay. Like, it doesn't really talk about the reaction of the Philistines priests. They just went up there and like, oh, I fell down again. And they push him back up, right? Yeah, and they took Dagon. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, okay, so the next day, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him, right? So now the second time he falls before the ark, now he's going to shatter, right? Head's going to come off, his arms and his hands gone, right? So now you just have this kind of stump hanging right here, and he's fallen before the ark. So, now this is a serious message that the Philistines, being sent, right, by God. Boom. Your God is now falling face first in front of the Ark of the Covenant. Now think about this. And this is very hard for modern people to think about, but, if that ever happened, I just want to impress upon you that in the ancient world, if this were to happen, this was just like mind-blowing, right? This would have a tremendous impact culturally, societally, and religiously on the Philistines. This would be kind of an earth-shattering event, that their God would fall down and break in pieces in front of Yahweh, in front of the Ark of God. This is, wow, right? So they start thinking, right? Verse 5, verse 5 is interesting too. Therefore, neither the priests of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. So they don't even, it's holy ground or something like that. Right? Yes, Deb?
They'd be afraid to step on it. The same thing that happened to them.
That's right, yeah.
And that tradition still continues today.
That's right.
People are afraid. People don't step over the threshold.
Are you going to break your mother's back or something like that? Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right. So verse 6, let's look at this. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them, and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. Okay, so there is going to be some kind of event. So you have the physical embodiment of Dagon in this idol. It falls down, it shatters in front of Yahweh. So now you really have, it's the battle of the gods now, isn't it? You have Dagon, the god of war, the protector of the Philistines, right? God of grain, god of fish. Everything that the Philistines believed in were tied up in Dagon. And so here is Dagon versus Yahweh. So God, as we just read, is going to punish the Philistines. Now, there's a couple things about these events that are interesting. The word emeralds, right? Emeralds can be. They have been translated into like hemorrhoids. Okay, we all know what hemorrhoids are. Or tumors. Tumors. And some kind of doing some research on this, and this makes sense to me. I think they were tumors, okay? There was some type, God sent some type of disease that actually affected these people that are not only just going to be like uncomfortable, right? But it's going to be deadly. And so there is obviously a disease that has tumors, bulbuses, okay? And it's the bubonic plague, the Black Death. And this is actually what happened in the Middle Ages, right? We may all know about this. About a third to half of the population of Europe in the 1300s is going to be completely wiped out. Think about that. Half of the people in this room are gone, right? And you would get these pustules here on your neck, a lot of times underneath, right, in your armpits, but also right here in your groin area as well. And if we read this account, it talks about that. It talks about the tumors being in there. It says they're secret places. So it most likely is. Yes, Deb, go ahead.
Given where those tumors are, the only comfortable position is on your hands and knees, just like Dagon.
Okay, all right. Good, I like that. That's good. Yeah. So there's also going to be death. So it's not. They certainly were uncomfortable, but you notice that this is going to spread to other places. So if we look at, he destroyed them, right, and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. So there's a death involved there, and usually hemorrhoids are not associated with death, right? Certainly uncomfortable. And so this is why I think it was a little more deadly than just having a discomfort, right?
How does verse 6 read in the King James?
And the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. What do you have, Steve?
So I have a note that the Septuagint adds another verse or two.
Okay. Do you have it there?
Says, so it says, the Lord's hand was heavy upon them, the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation upon them and afflicted them with tumors. And then the Septuagint adds, and rats appeared in the land, and death and destruction were throughout the city.
So thank you for that. So that was going to be that's going to be my kind of just another reason why I think it's the bubonic plague. That there's going to be an infestation of rats, as that verse says. And if you notice, what was one of the things that the Philistines gave as a trespass offering? Golden rats or golden mice. So they gave two things as a trespass offering. They gave the ark back. They put it on a cot, and they gave a golden tumor, right? They fashioned a golden tumor and golden mice or golden rats as well as a trespass offering. In other words, giving something of value in addition to the Ark of the Covenant back to the Israelites, but also recognizing that Yahweh had the power, that Yahweh actually did this, had sent this disease and this destruction. Because remember, it's not just people being uncomfortable with hemorrhoids here. I don't think that's really what's going on. It's a much more destructive thing that is happening. And it was some type of plague that involved tumors, most likely the bubonic plague.
That's what it says.
Okay, very good. All right. I'm glad I'm right. Glad. Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Two things in verse 6
Yes.
echo back to previous verses. The fact that the phraseology that the Lord's hand was heavy on the people, I think is a demonstration that the hand is power,
Mhm.
might, and it's showing God's mightiness over Dagon's, whose hands were broken off.
That's right.
And they fell before God.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
And the heavy part is the word kaved, which is like related to the word ikavod, Ichabod, Where
Okay.
no glory. So glory has the idea of heaviness, of weight, of might. And here, even though the glory had departed from Israel, God's hand still had might and heaviness.
Yes.
So I think that's playing back on the things we read earlier.
I like that a lot. Thank you. Very good. Anyone else? Any comments on this? So if you notice this last thing, populations of cities are destroyed. So not only is Ashdod affected by this, but it also says in the coast thereof. So this is going to spread, right? And so they decide that in verse 9, and it was so that after they had carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. So they're going to move it in verse 8. They're going to say, look, we got to get this ark out of here, right? And so they move it, they carry it to Gath, and they carry the ark of God, God of Israel, about thither. Gath is going to suffer the same fate as Ashdod. So, let's just think about this kind of, obviously God's hand is in it. But, if you're moving the ark of God and people are bringing it, people that have disease, right? So they've got the bubonic plague. And so they're moving the ark of the covenant, like, we got to get this ark out of here. They're actually bringing the disease with them as they move the ark to Gath. And what happens in Gath? Well, they're going to get the same disease as well. So God's hand is using in a very natural way to bring punishment upon the Philistines. But the big thing is, you have this battle now, right, in kind of literary language in Samuel. The writer is really bringing across this idea of the pagan god Dagon being completely subdued before Yahweh. And not only is the physical embodiment of Dagon broken, but now the people themselves are being destroyed. So the thing that Israel could not do, they couldn't do because they weren't following after God. They had other gods, as Samuel is going to say in a couple of chapters from now. They were worshiping other gods. They were worshiping Baal. They were worshiping Ashtaroth. They may have even on the coastline been on that border of the Philistines. They may have been worshiping Dagon as well. There was a lot of different gods that the Israelites were worshiping outside of Yahweh. And so now it's very clear, like Yahweh, He is God. He's the most powerful God in this area. And obviously we know it's not just in Israel, but everywhere else. Okay, any questions on that? So eventually the ark, without getting into it, the ark is going to be brought back. Let's see. Verse 6. The Philistines have chapter 6. I'm sorry. They're going to have a big, all the lords are going to get together and like, what are we doing with this situation? We got a major problem on our hands. But it's also, too, when the ark comes down to Beth-Shemesh in verse 15, people start looking into it, right? They're opening up the ark. They're being extremely disrespectful to the ark as well. And there's actually, Israelites are going to die because of that as well. It says, because they had looked into the ark in verse 19, he smote the people 50,000, 70 men, and the people lamented because the Lord had smitten many of the people with a great slaughter. So that's a lot of people. And so it's like, maybe after 25,000, maybe stop looking inside the ark. At some point, put it together, guys. All right, any questions on this? So, I guess the one takeaway right now from this part of the story is, the reign of Eli, or the judgeship of Eli and his sons, really ends in disaster, doesn't it? Israel is brought low. The glory is gone. And so they're looking for somebody to lead them, right? And Samuel is growing, right? He's growing in favor in the eyes of God, but also in men. And so he is slowly going to be taking a more prominent role in leading the Israelites, okay? But also keep in mind this, Israel is kind of a loose confederation of tribes. And each tribe is going to have a prince or a chieftain or a leader, whatever you want to call them. And so there wasn't this idea of a centralized location and a centralized area of government. is really foreign to the Israelites at this time. And it's only going to be with these massive battles between the Philistines and the fact that they're almost wiped out as a people that I think a lot of them are going to begin to say, hey, we've got to come together. You know, if we are fractured like this, we're eventually going to lose. We have a lot of enemies. We have the Philistines, the Moabites are here, the Edomites are here. And we're being pressured from all sides. Remember we showed that map a few weeks ago? They're being pressured from all sides from these different peoples. And they're losing their identity. They're losing their culture. In fact, if it hadn't been for the grace of God, they would have lost their most precious religious artifact. The ark would have been gone. So just think about that mentality. And so I think this is going to be where the idea or the push begins for Israel to have a king. We need a king to lead us into battle and to take us out. We need a central figure that can rally all of the Hebrews together to fight our battles. Because we've got battles. We've got a major problem on our hands. We're being crushed. So just keep that in mind as we go on. All right? Questions, comments on that? Yes, Bob?
You see the analogy of today,
Yes.
where we're not fractured per se, but we have ecclesias all over the place.
Sure.
And we are looking for a king,
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
just like they were.
Yes. And, you know, our king is very soon to be here, we hope and pray. And he is going to kind of bring us all together for sure, and bring the world together. You know, all of the strife that we see in the world and in this country, right? You know, every day it's just one thing after another. You know, Christ is going to come, and he is going to bring peace and stability to this world. But yeah, they were looking for a charismatic leader, and Samuel was going to be that leader for a short period of time. Well, not sure, for a long period of time actually. But you know, his sons are going to have problems as well, and that's when the people are going to start, you know, saying, you know, we need a king. This is ridiculous. All right. So let's take a look at some of the roles that Samuel had. Okay, Samuel is going to. I just want to mention this one thing in the 7th chapter of Samuel. We're going to take a look at this, but the men of Kirjath-Jearim are going to be the ones that come and get the ark. Okay, and they brought it in verse 1 to the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. So Kirjath-Jearim is going to play a role in actually keeping the ark, sanctifying the ark, that type of thing, showing it the proper respect. Kirjath-Jearim is going to have a special relationship with Saul as well. The men of Kirjath-Jearim are going to have a special relationship with Saul, as we're going to see. This is going to play an important role. All right. So in verse 3 of the 7th chapter, first of all, he's going to be a judge, right? Samuel's going to do a circuit, okay, around Israel. And as he goes, he is going to administer justice. He's the judge. He's going to make the final decision on things. And this is a pattern, actually, that in the Middle Ages, not to get too nerdy on you, but the kings of Europe, particularly in England, the English actually set up their system of justice along this idea of a circle it's called the King's Justice. And he would send out kind of the big judges, and they would do a circuit around England. In any any major trial or any contention that was there that the local authorities couldn't deal with, the King's Justice would deal with it, okay? And their word was final. I think the same thing happened with Samuel as well. You know, each town or each city is going to have a group of elders, and these elders are going to kind of take care of any issues that need to arise. They're going to guide the town. They're going to deal with any conflicts. But major things that maybe they couldn't deal with or needed some direction, they would have waited for Samuel to come, and then Samuel would have dispensed whatever justice there needs to be, or make a final decision. And we know that when they came, remember when Samuel comes to Bethlehem, to Jesse, and calls for his sons, the elders were there too, and they were scared, right? They were scared that Samuel had showed up. Like, ooh, what's Samuel doing here, right? So he definitely had power and authority, and it wasn't uncommon for Samuel to show up at these different places as he did this kind of circular judgment. But showing up unannounced would also be pretty scary too, right? That you didn't know what was going on, like why was he here? Okay. And Samuel, verse 3, spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, If you do return unto the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the strange gods and Ashtaroth from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the children of Israel did put away Balaam and Ashtaroth, and served the Lord only. So here is Samuel. He is administering justice. And his final statement is, guys, if we need to serve Yahweh, we've got to put away all of these other gods. You've got to put them away. Baal and Ashtaroth. Anyone, who's Ashtaroth, by the way? Anyone know? She was a fertility god, yes. So a fertility god, very closely reliant to Ishtar in the Babylonian tradition as well. Also in the Egyptians, Isis as well. So there was a kind of a connection there. But here's the thing. In some Canaanite circles, she was the consort or the wife of Yahweh. So some Canaanites had this belief that Yahweh had a wife named Ashtaroth. And so the Israelites believed that. There were people that believed that God actually had a wife, and they worshiped both Yahweh and Ashtaroth, the consort of Yahweh. Okay, and they've actually found archaeological evidence of this. Little figurines of Ashtaroth, who was the wife of Yahweh, which is interesting, right? So Samuel's saying, look, you gotta stop that, right? And so this is going to be a continued struggle, isn't it, brothers and sisters, between following after God, following after his precepts, being dedicated to God and loving to God. But there's all this other social and religious pressure from the Canaanites, who never disappeared, by the way. They were always there, even from the time of Joshua. We know this. We've already been over this, right? They never got rid of the Canaanites. And so there was this constant internal struggle for the direction, for the hearts and minds. You ever hear that? It's a struggle for the hearts and minds of the people. And this is what was going on. It was a struggle for the hearts and minds of the Hebrews, of the Israelites. And Samuel was struggling for the hearts and minds of the people. They were a mess. You have all of these people, outside influences, but also internally. Who are we going to follow? We're going to follow Yahweh? We're going to follow the law of Moses? Or are we going to follow all of these other gods? Right? And that really never goes away up until the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians. It really doesn't. And I think I've said this before. Archaeologists have confirmed that up until the return, after the 70 years in captivity in Babylon, they've found all types of figurines of different types of God, Ashtaroth, Baal, Dagon. They found all of this stuff within the towns of the ancient Hebrews. Okay, so they were worshiping other idols everywhere. But after the return, so after the destruction of Jerusalem, destruction of the temple, the people are taken captive back to Babylon. There is this kind of rebinding themselves back to God. It's writing down and getting all of the sacred scriptures, putting them together with the Old Testament. And when they come back under Ezra and Nehemiah, there is zero evidence of the Israelites worshiping other gods outside of Yahweh. That's fascinating to me. So as destructive and awful as the destruction of Jerusalem was, it really was a pivot or a very important data point right there that completely changes the mindset of the children of Israel. You needed this. You needed this destruction almost to coalesce the people of Israel into a cohesive group of people with a shared identity, with a shared history, and shared religious rituals and belief systems. But up until that point, it was a hodgepodge, baby. You know, it was, and we know that, right, from Solomon. Solomon, the king of Israel, is actually going to build temples to all of these different gods. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change. You know, it says, I think a lot of times, even with good kings, like the high places were not taken away. Well, what was going on in the high places? They were worshiping other gods. They were worshiping Yahweh as well in these high places, these groves and such. But the worshiping of other gods continued all the way up into the Babylonian destruction of the temple. Okay, questions, comments on that? Phew, I'm not sweating too bad today, Bob. All right. So we're going to just touch on this idea of Samuel being a prophet. We know that he's a prophet, right? And so let's take a look at in 8, okay? And we'll get into this in a little bit more. But in 8, it says, and so in the verse 2 verse, and it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his son judges over Israel. Now let's just hold it right there. Let's go back. So in verse 7, Samuel is going to gather all of the people together. He's going to admonish them, put your gods away. We've got to be dedicated to Yahweh. This is the problem, he's saying. This is why in the past you haven't been successful against the Philistines. You're not showing love or respect or reverence to Yahweh. Stop with all the other gods. The people are like, yeah, okay, yeah, definitely, we got it. Put away their gods for a period of time, right? Verse 4, and they serve the Lord only. Okay, so they're serving Yahweh according to the law of Moses. There's going to be a battle in verse 10. As Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. So the Philistines are going to get information that the Israelites are once again coming together. They're going to try to beat us. They're going to try, you know, the Philistines look at the Israelites as servants, you know? They were kind of second-class citizens. They were a subdued, conquered people. And so like any group that is oppressing another group, any time that you have one individual kind of getting the people together, that's a cause of concern, right? And so, yes, Deb, go ahead.
That sounds familiar. That sounds like you're occupying our land.
Okay, yeah, I think there's certainly a connection to today. Yes, absolutely. And so you have Samuel bringing the people together. And so the Philistines hear about it. And what do the Philistines do? They're like, oh, go ahead, guys. You have freedom of speech. Don't worry. Speak your mind. We want to hear what you have to say. Obviously not. They're going to go and they're going to disperse this by violence, right? They're going to kill all of the Israelites that are there with Samuel. But we find out that when he was offering, it says verse 10, but the Philistines are coming, but the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines and discomfited them, and they were smitten before Israel. They're going to pursue the Philistines. They're going to smite them. And so verse 13, so the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Okay, so this is going to be incredible. They're going to go from losing the ark. They're going to go from being subdued by the Philistines to, let's look at verse 14. And the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel. From Ekron even unto Gath and the coast thereof did Israel deliver out of the hands of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Whew. Where were the Amorites located? Anyone remember from that map we showed?
East.
Yeah, to the east, right? Yeah, right. So they're on the east part, the east portion. So there was peace. So Samuel, it sounds like Samuel is going to, kind of work out some type of peace agreement with the Amorites who are on the east side. The Israelites are going to beat the Philistines in battle, They're going to recover all of this city. So now, under Samuel, this is a time of prosperity. So now that there is peace with their enemies, and so all of the resources and the towns and the cities that were taken by the hand of the Philistines are now restored back to Israel. And this is a wonderful time, right? And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. Whew. So verse 16 kind of gives us a little more information right here, okay? And he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all these places. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house, and there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar unto the Lord. So Ramah is going to become a very important place of worship. It's going to be where Samuel is going. His headquarters are going to be. He's going to build an altar there, which is interesting, right? There's going to be an altar to the Lord there that he is going to offer sacrifices to. But then in the circuit, Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, right? And I haven't looked at these locations, but Bethel is it's right outside of Jerusalem, so it's like in the center area of Israel, I believe that he's gonna do this circuit. Okay, Ramah as well is going to be mentioned. I think we talked about this already. That Ramah is going. It was where Samuel is going to set up his headquarters. But that's also going to be the place where the Babylonians, right, are going to take all of the wealth and the booty from the destruction of Jerusalem and all the people, and they're going to lead them captive to up to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem into Babylon. All right. Questions, comments so far? All right, so I am not here next week. I'm not sure who's doing it, but okay, Brother Jim, thank you. So we'll be back at it, let's see, the 13th? Yeah.